Hello, I'm Kelly Humrickhauser. The National Trust for Historic Preservation appreciates your efforts to help affect change at the local, state, and federal levels. This video is part of a series that provides guidance to those advocating on behalf of historic preservation and Main Street, and this video specifically focuses on site visits for elected officials. To start us off, why invite elected officials to visit your community, your preservation project, your historic landscape, your Main Street? There are many reasons, but here's a few to think about. To move the needle on important policy issues. Whether you're an advocate for the historic tax credit, the historic preservation fund, public lands, economic development issues, having an elected official come and see those issues, your solutions, and the value of your work in action is an incredible way to have them deeply understand issues that are impacting your community and the solutions that they can create, whether that's in Congress, at the federal level, in your state legislature, or with local, county, or regional officials. It's also an opportunity to build relationships with those offices. Oftentimes, relationships are the key to getting stuff done, whether that's you need to change this policy lever at some point in the future, and you just happen to have had this relationship based on a tour 2 years ago. You now have the fabric of a relationship that you can use to outreach and kind of move the needle in your direction. It's also important to rally the community. The sign and signifier of an elected official coming and taking their time to be with you in your district or at your project is an indication that this is of importance. And that can also help other community members recognize you as a leader in this space. It's also an opportunity to gain media attention for your project and your work on preservation issues in Main Streets, but also for the elected official. Many elected officials want to be able to show members of the community that they're listening, that they're doing positive work for them in Washington or at the state capitol. And this is a really great way to perhaps drive some attention for both of you. But keep in mind, that's a discussion that you're going to want to have with the elected official's office to make sure any media attention is wanted media attention. Okay, so you want to get started on this process. You got to organize a plan. First, you got to think through those goals. What do you want to see as the outcomes of this tour? And who's involved? Who's your team? And whether or not they're in your core planning team, who else needs to be aware? If you're inviting an elected official, maybe good to give your contacts at the city or the county a heads up to say, hey, this is an important visit. We're going to focus on this project. We also want to see if and how you feel that you need to be involved, because you want to make sure that you're engaging any stakeholders that might be a little angsty if they didn't get that invite. What are the stops on the tour? What's the timing? If you're going to have multiple stops, who is walking with the elected official along the way? These are some things that you need to think about as you're kind of getting your plan organized. What's the total timing that you need? And again, are media invited? Now that you have a little bit of your concept, you can probably form a solid invitation. The way that you can do that is to connect with the scheduler far in advance. If you have existing relationships with the congressional office or the legislative office, you might have an easier way of getting to that office through an existing contact, such as the in-district representative for a Senate office. If that's the circumstance, include that person. But also, if there's no relationship, you can contact a general number for the congressional office and ask for the scheduler's contact information. That's a key way to get started. When you make your request, you're going to want to offer several time and date windows. And we'll talk a little bit more about the timing of that. But you want to make sure that you're not just saying, we're just available this one day, because there's a very low chance that you're going to nail that on the head. In your request, you want to be clear and kind and considerate and write down some details. Give a little sense of what you want to showcase on this visit. A solid request to a congressional office, if you're thinking about the federal level, is brief, but it's also detailed. You want to make sure that you're just giving the information that's needed in order for the person to make a decision about where this fits on the priority list and if it's feasible in time. And again, that timing is key. A well-received request is going to be one that's vaguely aware of where the congressman might be. If you request the congressman's presence, think about when that congressperson might be home in their district. Members of Congress generally have a few breaks throughout the year. Sometime in October, there's always a little bit of a break. Sometime around Memorial Day, 4th of July, there's a little bit of a break. They're always home or always not in session during the month of August. So that is typically considered the best time to invite them to come and view programs and projects in your community, because they're in district, time off from work in Washington, and may have more flexibility and may be interested in seeing a lot of work on the ground during that time. As you look to craft an impactful visit, you want to stay in touch with that scheduler as you're finalizing your plan. There might be hiccups along the way. If you've identified a date, it might change. You've got to be aware of that and just responsive to anything that they send you, and maybe send a check-in along the way with some updates if needed. You want to confirm the logistics with everybody that you have involved. The plan needs to be down pat. That includes simple things in logistics, like if the congressman needs to use a restroom or wants a drink of water, do you have that kind of stuff ready? But also very detailed talking points and speaking roles for the people that are going to be leading your tour. If you have a developer showing the congressperson part of a project, and that person is then going to pass them off to the architect, who's saying what? What's the handoff point? Can you craft a narrative around this project? You were able to transform this building in your downtown into this vital community hub, and you started here. You had these challenges along the way. You found financing mechanisms, grants, whatever the help was that helped you get to the finish line. And now here's the impact of the community. So start your project, showcasing your project as a narrative. And maybe have some handouts if it's appropriate for your project, whether that's from thinking about how you've moved the needle through a project, whether it's a pro forma, whether or not it's development documents or any impact stats that you might have. A solid one-page handout about whatever the issue is, whatever the project is that you're showcasing, be helpful for the congressperson to remember. Okay, the day has come and you're ready to host the tour. Check in last minute with the scheduler on any arrival, or be very attentive to your inbox or your phone just to make sure that if there's any changes in the day plan that you're aware. Make sure that you're welcoming, flexible, and you are gracious for that congressperson's time to come to your district. Now, at the last minute, if the congressperson cannot come, maybe they got called away, they got sick, something else came up, and they substitute in a staff member, be prepared that that does happen sometimes, and treat that staff person just as important as you might treat the member, because the person has an extreme level of connection and opportunity to share your impact up the chain to the member, and is also maybe doing a little bit more of the work day to day, making the moves on what might be important to you in terms of putting documentation together and thinking through the congressman's priorities. So please don't consider being moved to a staffer a bad thing. I mean, we all have priorities to make sure we get that photo op, but the staff person can be really helpful to you. Make sure during this tour that you make the ask. Make the ask, make the ask. If you have something that you want to connect to your project, whether it's a state policy, a federal policy, whoever you're working with, make sure that you state that clearly and don't let the opportunity pass you by. That should be assigned to somebody as a speaking role. Who is the person that's going to ask this legislator to support the tax credit or support funding for your SHPO? Make sure somebody is assigned that and completes that task. Make sure that you answer any questions. An important caveat here is that you want to answer those questions to the best of your ability, but you never want to lie and you never want to inflate the truth. So if you're asked about numbers, if you're asked about policy opportunities, and you're asked about connections in other communities, and you're just not aware of those things, say, I'm not sure about that, but I'll be happy to get back to you. The best way to avoid any sort of flub of information is just to be frank that that's not something that's in your knowledge realm at the moment. And make it count. The visit is only as good as the follow-up. So after the visit is concluded, the end of the day, you're relaxing, you've done it, you have a cheers moment for your team and make sure to thank the participants. You want to follow up with the legislator's office. Send a thank you note via email within the day or two following that visit. I know that a lot of people like to send handwritten thank you notes, and that can be very valuable as well. But if you want to make sure that you're following up with materials or any additional questions, you want to make sure to copy the scheduler, any other staff that were involved, and get those materials in a formal way that gets to them quickly. Paper mail can take some time and it can be disregarded if it doesn't if it's not received quickly after the tour. And then you want to keep the momentum going. Continue contact with the office, follow up on any other requests. Did you ask them to support the historic tax credit and they said yes? Did they take that action? Continue to follow up with them. You could share project updates. If you had a project that then had a ribbon cutting, invite them. Invite the staff members from the district office and make sure you're sharing media and news with them. Follow up and make sure that you are following their social media. Ask them to follow yours. Post pictures of the visit in your newsletter. Kind of share in a relationship with that office and start building that from a media and communications perspective too. Okay, that should get you started. Please note that the National Trust and Main Street America have additional materials on scheduling visits, and we're also always happy to help you. If you want to get in contact with anyone in the National Trust family, you can reach out at forum@savingplaces.org and check out tools for grassroots advocacy, including the full video series and the Action Center for immediate updates on federal policy. We appreciate your time.